Welcome to the Chemistry podcast. We're here today with Kellie Ashton,
Hello.
who is, what's your handle on social media?
The Social Ashton.
You deal with social media for clients.
Yeah.
And now you're moving into management of podcasts.
Yeah, podcast management and launches and things like that.
I've got some questions for you regarding how podcasts should be marketed and stuff like that, because a lot of people come here and they can create the podcast, but we don't market them ourselves. So it'd be really interesting to know how to do that properly. So what are the main mistakes that people make when they're starting their podcast?
I think the main mistake is when choosing their name.
Oh, right,
so the
okay.
podcast name, it carries such a weight in SEO, and a lot of people will put like the in front of it, where that first word is the most important. So like, take it off.
Right. So a bit like Facebook.
Yeah.
When it was called the Facebook.
Yeah. Like whatever people are going to be searching, those keywords, like one of those keywords needs to be the first in your name.
Okay. So what's a good example of that?
For example, like for me, mine would be podcasting.
Right.
If I was to do a podcast myself, it would be podcasting, because podcast is too broad. Too many people have that in their name.
Yeah.
So it's something like podcasting tips people would be looking up.
Right.
And that would be in my name.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Is podcasting, I suppose because podcasting is don't know if it's a verb or whatever, but it's the process of doing it. Whereas most people will have podcast at the end.
Yes.
So it would be the football podcast.
Yes.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
You work with people to get their podcast sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got, probably gives it more life to, so people aren't spending out their own pocket to get it done. What makes a podcast appealing to sponsors?
It's all depending on, I'd say, like your niche. So like, are they an engaged niche that are going to then benefit the sponsors?
Yep.
What have you got? Consistent download numbers. So maybe not just like looking at months worth of downloads. And that's something that you then put in like a pitch deck to a sponsor. We'd put that into like a pitch deck to showcase your downloads, what it looks like across social platforms. So like having a look at, are they like, is your Instagram got a big following as well as other social media platforms?
Right.
Sponsors aren't the only way of monetizing a podcast, so that's where the misconception is.
Right. Okay.
So basically there are other ways that you can monetize from it, whether it's like affiliate links you can put in your show notes. I work with a lot of businesses that like tie their podcast back to their business.
Right.
So there's ways of, for example, take a therapist, for example, talking about her clients or something like that. If she's mentioning clients and what happens in session, she's indirectly selling.
Right.
And then we also can like strategically place a self-promo ad into the podcast, which will help, like, for example, if they've got an offer on or a group program or something, there'll be an ad in the middle of the podcast episode that will...
And is that just a promo that they can make?
Yeah.
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 All right, nice. So that's obviously being their own sponsor in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And then that helps them sell business from their podcast.
their own business.
What other ways can you monetize other than self-promotion and sponsorship from other things?
I would always say that it's probably best to plan a podcast around what the focus and the goals are of the business.
Right. Yeah.
In the hopes that it would always tie it back so that you can then generate income.
Exactly. I suppose you can't rely on the YouTube fund or TikTok creator fund.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go in with that plan of doing that.
So you mentioned the social media side of things. How important is clipping your long form content into social media bites?
Really important. Yeah, I would definitely say so. It's a great way of getting it, like your podcast, out there. Obviously, you think about TikToks and how often people posting TikToks and stuff, and the reach that you can get from like a very controversial clip, say.
Yeah.
Obviously, podcasts can be found organically. They can be, given with the right SEO and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, if you're repurposing your podcast episode and clipping it to YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, say, and then repurposing each episode from there to like blogs, Pinterest, there's just a broad way of getting your episode out there, not just solely relying on, just the video or whatever.
What's the top social media platform for pods, would you say?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, this is probably quite selfish because I watch them on TikTok. Yeah. So a lot of the ones a lot of them that I come across are from snippets or clips on TikTok. It's a really good way of getting like the bite-sized bits, like the hooks, I would say, to your episode out on TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah. So any controversial topics, however you've got them, if they perform well on TikTok, you're likely to maybe get a bit of traffic from that.
Yeah.
Then would you say maybe Instagram, YouTube Shorts at all?
Yeah, I'd say that. And then I would also say like I was listening to a podcast earlier about newsletters. A lot of people put podcasts into newsletters and then like create ads through newsletters and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Email marketing is still really strong for businesses.
Yes.
So it's like how they get a lot of leads. Basically, like if you go onto someone's website, enter your email and subscribe to a newsletter. So that's like a good thing to get people's interest and be like, oh, right, they're talking about this. I'll watch it. You got them for half an hour. You might have your paid ad or your ad that. Yeah. So, that's where you're converting people basically.
Yeah.
What would you say if someone was starting out, the minimum kind of quality they want to be aiming for? So my example is some people start out and they are just on Zoom chatting to people like all around the country, or record on Riverside, or they do it from home and they just use their phone. What would you recommend?
I don't think the budget needs to be massive. I would say investing in a good mic is the most important thing. iPhones are just as good, I would say. I would probably say iPhone over Zoom.
Yeah.
But Riverside is probably the most preferred platform to record in. And then it's all down to the editing and the post-production.
Yeah. Do you plan at the start and then they do the podcast and then you then look at the podcast and say that can be clipped, that can be clipped?
Yeah. So we start off with a strategy, like a plan, which we'll map out all the episodes from that. My clients will go and record them, give me all the raw material, and then I will edit and then clip up everything, write all the show notes. I normally do like a content repurposing document for each client on each episode, and then kind of give them a plan of how they're going to market it. And sometimes some people like to do it themselves, but some people will pay me to then go and post those clips and stuff out.
Yeah. And then you're posting to all the places you think will work for them.
Depends on where their target audience is sat. That's probably the most important thing, is looking at where your target audience is. If they're not going to be on TikTok, there's no point in posting to TikTok.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
In that process, what is the most interesting thing for you working on people's podcasts?
I actually love the editing and the clipping of the marketing clips, only because I learn so much through other people's stories, which I wouldn't be, if they weren't my clients, I probably wouldn't have listened to it or something. And watching them come full circle, like I like the whole full circle of an episode and then seeing it go out and people engaging with it and things like that.
Yeah, I always find myself like smiling alongside, like, and then just going, that's a really nice bit. Like, obviously, you know your clients, so you're just like, they're having fun. So,
but I also love to tell my clients that. So when I edit their episode, I'll be like, I loved this section.
Yeah.
Like, I really laughed at this section, because it's really nice. Like, I don't think we get complimented enough as much anymore. Yeah. So giving them the compliments of I love that or whatever, because they might not get it from their audience. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So say if they get 200 views but no comments, that's like a great result. But you saying, oh, that little bit in there was really funny. Yeah. I love that clip. Yeah. And then they're just like, okay, so when they go into their next one, they know that they can let loose.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's where as well, because I am a podcast listener outside of work, it kind of, I know what's funny and what people would enjoy listening to.
So we were saying about, obviously, there's so many people doing different podcasts. Some of them are very specialist. Some of them are just chats. Like you have couples doing it. How do you make a specialist subject more appealing to like a broader audience, or do you not need to do that?
I think it all comes down to the hook. So like positioning it in the sense of that it's not just like, oh, this is how you would do business accounting. Like imagine how you wouldn't click on it. Yeah. But if you said, actually, I think you're doing this wrong. This is how we should position yourself or whatever. It really speaks to a different kind of audience because they're a bit taken back by the hook, say. Yeah. So yeah, definitely like those controversial opinions, those hooks are going to get that audience like, oh yeah.
When you look at social media as well for people, do you have a similar approach?
Yeah, always lead with the hook.
Yeah.
Hook, then your content. I always say key takeaways as well because it's nice to recap at the end. For example, if your episode is 45 minutes long, at the end, just to reiterate those key takeaways, and then they leave with those points that you wanted to make.
This might be putting you on the spot too much, but what kind of hooks do you think are working quite well at the moment? Like I know there's names for them, so like a
pain point hook. And,
yeah, exactly.
I would say I really do like the controversial ones.
Yeah,
people are questioning about the pain point ones just because it's negative. Like I know people like the negative things, but some people don't want to read that or being told that they're doing something wrong or something like that. So yeah, I'd kind of say, or like a solution-based one. You've got a problem, this is the solution, I'm going to help you get there. And someone's like, oh yeah, I'd like to read that.
But yeah, I think any business can adopt these like social media aspects where they're, just making their content a little bit more engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely.
So when people are making podcasts, where should they be putting their long form media and where do you think they should be putting their social media clips?
Long form could go to like YouTube. There's still Spotify as well. You can put your long form video on there. Apple Podcasts are bringing out video content. I think it's in spring next year. And then the short form, obviously YouTube Shorts, Instagram, TikTok. Can put obviously videos on LinkedIn now. There's so many places that you can actually put it. Yeah.
Do you think social media clips need to be repurposed for the platforms quite a lot? Because as you say, LinkedIn's more professional, so
we have that assumption that LinkedIn's professional.
Actually, yeah, you're right.
It's not no longer. It's more like for building personal brands. So like people do want to hear and see like raw things or like people's beliefs and things like that. It's not. I also had the assumption that it was very professional, hence why I didn't do it at the beginning of last year, but now I'm kind of more on that platform. But yeah, I do think they do ever so slightly could be repurposed. Like maybe LinkedIn is more of like an engagement platform, so like you'd end with like, rather than a call to action, maybe more of a question. To get people in the comments. Yeah.
In social media posting, do you take into account for people's short attention spans?
Yes, that's where some of my clients have like multicam.
Right.
So making sure like to change the camera angle, it sounds so silly, but changing the camera angle quickly and often, maybe even zooming in, zooming out, just kind of like these visual aspects of the video to really kind of keep them engaged because everyone's
I hear people say it has to change every 2 seconds at least, right? Yeah. It does make it a lot more visually interesting and it just stops you scrolling that extra bit, doesn't it? So,
definitely.
Yeah, it definitely works.
It depends as well where people are listening to their podcast though, because obviously like, for example, on the drive here, I was listening in the car. Yeah. So the video aspect of that podcast didn't actually matter to me on the way here. Yeah. Some video podcasts work for people. There's other podcasts that think that they have to have video, but they don't have to. Yeah. It's not the be all and end all. You could start with just audio and then transfer into video as time goes on. The only benefit to video obviously is distributing it to so many different platforms.
If someone was just doing an audio podcast, does that restrict social media clips, or do you reckon there's a way to do something?
Yeah, so I would create like audiograms, so it's still taking the snippet of like the words and the audio, and then maybe putting like a picture of the person and then the guest or whatever, and then like an audio wave going over it so they could use it as a reel. There are ways around it,
and then I suppose that can be really nicely branded to their
page and their feed.
Exactly. Yeah, I have seen that does look quite good. It's a good way of getting around it as well. How does a podcast manager help to run the day-to-day or the whole process of launching a podcast?
So firstly, I think it's like a time-saving thing, because a lot of podcast or aspiring to be podcast hosts don't have the time. I obviously then take into account that I help the strategy behind the podcast.
Yeah.
So we've like efficiently planned how that fits back into their goals. Sometimes people miss that aspect, which then leads them to drop off. Maybe season 1, they've thought, well, it doesn't actually give me any ROI. So that kind of aspect. I then obviously help with the marketing clips and the editing so that they can promote it across the different platforms. And then obviously I do offer like a monetization strategy to help them monetize from it.
Yeah.
I would say mainly it's a time saving, like saving their energy behind doing all those post-production tasks.
Yeah. And obviously probably selling yourself short a little bit, because you have the expertise to help them push it in the best way possible as well.
Yes.
If someone came to you and they have an idea, but they're not really into podcasts themselves, so they don't really know the format, what would you suggest is a good format for like an episode, a half-hour episode?
We would normally do like an intro, like a pre-recorded intro.
Right.
And that's just easy then, obviously, just for me to clip it into the front. I would then obviously go in with the hook and then their main content of what they wanted to speak about.
Yep.
And then their key takeaways, and then an outro. Always finish with a call to action. Predominantly one, just like one easy to follow call to action. Because otherwise if we were given a lot of options, we would then probably end up doing nothing.
Yeah.
So,
I get that.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're like, oh, like and subscribe, then download this and sign up to my newsletter, we're all like, no.
Yeah, I won't do anything.
No.
Yeah,
So
either that or just pick the last one you heard.
Yeah.
Right.
So just one clear call to action.
One of your jobs is to suggest what would work best for that. So maybe they record a few different versions and you're saying, right, this episode would really entice people into knowing more about your company. So maybe the newsletter one for this outro, call to action. So is podcasting overdone?
No, I don't think it is.
We have to say that, though, don't we?
No, but do you know what it is? It's because so many people start podcasts. So if you were to actually like search in the bar, like the search bar, a podcast, there are probably a lot of podcasts on that topic. However, they're not all actively posting.
Yeah.
So many people post and like they record and they post all these pieces of content out, and like we said, they don't get the ROI on it, or they haven't got the downloads or the numbers that they wanted, and they then think it's not working.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I always look at a podcast as a marathon.
Yeah.
You can't expect to start and then get all of these sponsors and things like that.
Exactly.
Straight
Turn
away.
into a Diary of a CEO overnight.
Yeah.
It's gaining followers over time. You can't expect to grow to like a multi-million, like just money printing machine overnight. And obviously, as you're doing it, you develop a style, your personality comes out.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot more community driven. You might even start getting questions that you can answer in season 2 of your podcast from season 1, where people were like, oh, you didn't mention this. How do you do this, for whatever topic?
Completely agree with that. Yeah, because also your confidence builds. So like I always say that the first few episodes are shit.
Yeah.
They're going to be rubbish.
Yeah. So do you have the mind of like any content is better than no content?
I think you really need to look at the target audience. So people obviously get questions in the DMs or whatever, the business owners. What are people coming to ask you repeatedly? Answer that in your episodes.
It's like the FAQs, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what people want to know. So you may as well go straight to that to start answering it for your first season. Or
yes, and that's exactly what we look at. Well, I look at when going into with a plan. What are those questions that people need answering? How often are they coming up? Do you know what I mean? And that's the difference with going back into, is podcasting overdone? No, because how you might answer a question might be completely different to how I answer a question, because both of our stories are different. So no two stories are the same, and no two people's opinions are the same. So that's why it's not overdone.
Yeah. We work with Karen, who is a women's safety advocate, and she has a baseball cap with Stop Giving Men podcasts on it, and I just say that's bad for my business. There is I think one of the first comments on most people's podcast clips is, oh yeah, they need to make podcast equipment more expensive. Like, and I see it so many times, and it's a bit like, don't listen to that.
No.
Like, you'll get a good comment soon. So, what kind of budget, if someone was to start a podcast, a business perhaps, what kind of budget would you suggest to put aside for their marketing for a year of podcasts, for instance?
It depends, I suppose, how much they want to do themselves, like DIY. If they want to DIY it, then maybe like not that much. However, being able to market with the podcast is probably like one of the most important things, because if you're not marketing it, how's anyone going to find it?
Yep.
As per budget per year, ooh, that's a tricky one. I suppose it depends on how big the business is as well.
Yeah, no, I thought it'd be quite a tricky one, because you can't really say like a percentage. Like a multi-million pound company is not going to be spending 10% on their podcasts, but maybe a small business might do. Maybe they look at their marketing budget as a whole and say, okay, we can put a percentage of that marketing budget towards the podcast.
And then I suppose it depends on whether or not they do it at home or if they hire a studio.
Yep.
They've got to factor that in. It depends on how they want to be perceived, I suppose, on social media.
As you say, if it is just audio, that's going to cut the
costs
massively.
A
lot.
You'd invest in a good mic then.
Yeah, just a good mic. The barrier to entry is very low.
Yeah.
And then you can expand from there.
Yeah.
Depending on
how your show grows, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're making money or you do get a sponsor, then maybe you can put more towards it. If someone came to you and they wanted to start a podcast this year, what would be your one main piece of advice?
One main piece of advice.
Use a podcast manager.
That would be, I mean, that could be the answer, but I would definitely say it's down to a plan.
Yeah.
Plan and a name, like picking a good name.
Right, okay.
Really good. That's the most important part.
Our podcast has the in front of it. And I'm thinking like, I shouldn't have done that now. But,
take it out, rebrand it, take it out straight away.
But it's so tempting to do, because you think in sentences, then you say.
Yes.
If they were planning, do you think that planning has to be the episode, the structure, and the marketing of it? So it's all encompassing planning.
Yes, and like the launch, how you're launching it. And marketing it before you launch it, so like getting people excited about it.
Okay, yeah.
Posting on, like, say for example, Instagram stories about it or TikTok stories. Really, maybe even taking your audience on the journey with you, so that they can feel like they are part of it. Maybe asking them to help pick a name. What colour do you think my branding should be? And then they kind of feel like they are with you, like that community is built before you've then launched it.
With getting people involved, what are some of the best ways to increase engagement as far as topics that you might discuss on the pod?
I have seen it on a couple of pods where they get people to like vote in, and the person with like the best idea wins something.
Right, okay.
Even if it was, I think once it was like a Starbucks voucher, and it was just like something very inexpensive for maybe a podcast host, but you're getting that engagement and people want to have the best one. And
then going on to sponsors. So if you do get sponsors, because I've seen it with a few YouTube clips, they tend to have a couple of different sponsors. So there'll be one where they actually stop and they say, oh, like my accounts are like really difficult to do. That's why I use Zero or whatever. Is there a maximum? Because I think people can get put off if there's too many product placements, right?
Mel Robbins is a very, like, she puts a lot of sponsors in hers.
Right.
I do think people can get put off, but then I suppose there isn't actually a maximum number. It depends on, once again, your target audience. Do they want to hear what that sponsor is? Like, is that sponsor aligned with who's listening?
Yeah.
Because I suppose if it was something that you're actually interested in, you would then sit and listen to the ad.
Yeah. If you're going out for sponsors and they're like, well, you've already got 4 sponsors in an episode, we don't want to be involved because we're going to be like a small shout out. Yeah. So, yeah, I suppose it gets limited by the business factors in that way. And then obviously your audience.
Yeah. And then also sponsors some of them like to pick where it's placed. The likelihood of you listening to a sponsor at the end of the episode is very low. Yeah. Because you're already checked out. You've listened to it and you're already clicked next.
Right.
So they either like to be the beginning or like a little like a quarter of the way in or like the middle. So it's obviously then dependent on who you're positioning yourself to or who's coming forward and where they want to be placed.
I think we normally try to put it between a quarter and a third of the way through, just because we know you get further drop off through halfway. So you want to make sure as many people as possible are seeing the advert, because then that gives you better sponsorability.
Yeah.
That is actually all of my questions.
Yay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Do you have any questions?
I have got a few.
Yeah.
I don't know how I literally just
you
whacked them up in the car.
answered them really well, so I'm feeling the pressure now.
What do you think the benefits are to your customers filming in a podcast studio?
I suppose, as always, if you're in a studio, the controllability. This is a soundproof pod, so if something happened outside, planes going over the top. I watch some YouTube channels, and then they actually have to stop for a plane going over, and they make it a bit of a thing, and they're just like, stop, and then you just hear zoom. But that would be a bit of a pain. So being able to control it, nice mics, good cameras, I would say that is the benefit.
Aesthetics background.
Exactly. Yeah. A lot of people come here and they might be in one sector. Someone else come here in a totally different sector. So nobody's actually seeing you in the same background as someone else.
Yeah.
Obviously, I see all the ones in the same background. So I'm like, these are all looking quite similar, but the same people aren't going to be watching the same different pods. So
that's true.
If it's in your budget, if you want that higher quality and you want people like yourself and me to work on it, then it's definitely worth doing.
Amazing.
So roll up.
What does your workflow look like post-production?
We record all of the camera angles all as one. So the mics go to a separate recorder because just to get the higher quality. So we take all the camera angles and then we synchronize the audio from the mics, make sure that's definitely aligned, because someone talking like this and then the sound coming in afterwards is not good. And then we match the camera angles to who's speaking. Sometimes you get over talk, which means a wide camera angle, cut to wide, will be better because, you see both people talking, they're interacting.
Yep.
And then obviously we cut social media clips, which will always be in portrait. I think sometimes you can do 4:5 format, which is not like full length, but if you want for stories as well, you go for 9:16. So,
and how do you deliver all of those to a client?
So we normally put it up for review just to say, is this all good? Have a little watch through. Is there anything said that you need bleeped? Is there anything said that you need just taken out because it's offensive to clients or whatever? Once they've okayed it, we go through, if we haven't made notes already, to create like an intro which encapsulates the whole episode, and it will normally be like a summary and a promo, and then we repurpose that for the social media output, so people can be like, new episode coming out, this is what it's going to look like, and then it's quite engaging, and then people will be hyped for the actual episode coming out.
Yeah.
So,
and how does the review process work? So are they going into like a Google file? Is it being dropped in there?
So we use Dropbox, and it's got replay. So replay, you can actually stop comment, so say, this bit I'm not sure about, could you cut to a different angle, I'm pulling a funny face, or can you show Rebecca's response, for instance. So they just comment on that. Sometimes the clients don't really work like that, and they just say, at 10:45 just cut that bit to 12:45. Those 2 minutes can go, just speeds everything up. And then if a clip that we've used for the intro was inside that, then we remove it from the intro as well, because it won't make sense, because someone might be watching it and say,
where's that bit?
Where's that bit? I've been waiting for that. And it might increase engagement with people commenting frustrated, but I think it's a bit unfair to put stuff in that isn't relevant to the episode. That's normally how it works. And then we will give them a download file, So the social media intro, promo, and the full episode in 16:9. And that's normally about 4 gigabytes. That's normally for like 45-minute episode. And yeah, they post it. As I say, if there's people like yourself who would be doing maybe even further clipping, they can grab that file, chop it up even more.
Right.
They can come back to us and say, in the episode, it's actually on a wide. We could do with the version where it's just solo cameras, for instance.
Yeah.
And then we can provide another version for that, for clipping. So yeah, that's normally how it goes.
Amazing.
And so the review and then delivery. Delivery is a little bit more simple. You can't really comment on it.
Yeah.
You just simply download.
So do they have one round of edits, revisions?
I normally give a couple because, say if we're doing 4 episodes at a time, they might watch the first episode, feedback on it, and then they actually go to the second episode and they're like, oh, actually, Sonia mentions that. I think that's good to mention on her episode so we can take it out of Ted's episode.
Right, okay.
These are all made up names as well. I think you need to give people the ability to be quite flexible with it. You can't just say one review and that's it. You're on your own, because you just need to be good customers and flexible so they get what they want in the end.
Exactly. I was going to ask, do you find that a lot of people come in and batch record episodes, or?
When people start getting into the episodes, they do. Maybe if they're starting out, they'll do one. It depends, obviously, if they can get, if they have guests that they can only get on one day in the afternoon, they'll come in, they'll do that one episode. But for instance, we have a podcast where a business owner brings about 14 of his staff and then they rotate in.
Wow.
So everyone's like outside, a couple of people inside just to feedback, and then one of us will be inside monitoring everything as well. And then rotate normally after an hour, which will cut down to 35 to 45 minutes.
Lovely.
Yeah,
it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, I would say that's a better way of doing it, because like we'll only charge for the half day pod use, whereas obviously there's a minimum that you'd be charging for an hour. So if someone comes in with a guest and it's half-hour pod, then you're paying for an hour.
Yep.
If you can get 5 people in, 5 different guests, 5 episodes in a half day, that's probably a better option.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Do you find when people are creating their own pods, maybe using their own equipment, that it's better for them to batch because they get in the zone?
Absolutely, yeah. I do think it's better for people to batch. It also then kind of gives you a little bit of a leeway. For example, if you go on holiday or if you're ill, which you can't help, if you're only creating them weekly, you kind of then, there's potential to miss an episode. Yeah.
And then obviously you've got it out of the way. You like they're being made and they can be lined up to be posted.
Yeah.
So,
I had one client create, I think, 11 episodes?
Oh, wow.
Just...
Right, okay. Yeah. And was that with guests and stuff like that?
Co-host. It was just her and a co-host.
Okay.
We just sat down and just batched them all out. And it was great.
Yeah. No, that is good. And then that could be, if it's going out weekly, I suppose that's that 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, it's basically a season.
Yeah, really good.
Really good. What do you find are your clients' biggest struggles when coming into the podcast studio?
I would say probably going off track a little bit sometimes, because podcasts can be conversational, and to make people comfortable, you don't just say, all right, stop you there, because then the person will be like, oh, right, okay, I'm talking too much. So leave it up to the edit afterwards, because we can trim down what people are saying. Yeah. But obviously on time management, that's quite difficult. If you're structured, like I'm going to ask this question, that question, and then we'll move on to this topic, it might be that someone expands loads on one question and they mention everything that you've talked about in the topic at the end. So you might just have to repurpose that for later just to stick to your structure. Okay. And then some people are really good at structuring. It's normally people that listen to pods as well. Yeah. They know start, middle, end, and like the little sign off at the end is always good. Normally we just record one and then use that on all of them.
Yeah,
because once you've nailed it, you don't really want to be repeating the same and email us. Yeah. If you have any questions.
Do you find that a lot of people do come in with a plan?
I don't actually think they do. I think maybe like a vague plan, but I kind of, because obviously we edit, I encourage them to, do it quite naturally, and then we can format it after the fact. It's all in the same room. So if you take something from the beginning and pop it to the end, it's not going to look too out of place. Sometimes you get context of jokes. So someone will make a joke about, the shoes they wear. Later on, they'll be like, or Danny's shoes. And then you have to chop that because you've cut the bit about the shoes in. Or like if you put that to the end, sometimes it won't make sense.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of make sure that it's making sense from start to end.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you're making little snips.
Yeah. That's the attention to detail, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I suppose as you watch it through and you're just like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it might just be that you've cut out a bit where they were talking beforehand and then they make a joke about what they were talking beforehand.
Yeah.
Or even outside the room. A lot of people say, like I was saying earlier, and you're like, well, you're not saying that anymore, so we'll chop out, like I was saying earlier, and then they just go into what people have trouble with is da-da-da.
Yeah.
So, little snippets. And if you have lots of camera angles, you can normally cover it. Yeah.
The beauty of a studio.
Exactly. Yeah, and that is a benefit. Audio is very forgiving, though. Mm-hmm. So you can normally cut out all which I just did it then. They are a bit of a pain because it's very common in people's speech to and I think... when people get conscious of it, it's one of those things that you just have to chop out. But it could be like every 3 or 4 seconds. Some people do it a lot.
Yeah.
So you chop out the worst ones and the ones that you can cover with a cut.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to break the audio wave, isn't it? Because some people go... and then straight into a sentence.
But you can see on an audio wave sometimes.
Yes,
like, they look, you're like, I see you. Because I could pretty much draw it, but it goes like that.
Yeah.
It's like, So, you spot them, and then often there are patterns in people's speaking. So they'll say something really good, and then it peters off, and then there'll be an and then they'll start again. So that's the bit that we can probably just close.
Yeah.
So in audio, a lot easier.
Yeah.
But in video,
forgiving.
A little bit more difficult. Yeah. That's why we put loads of camera angles on.
Do you have any massively do's and don'ts when coming into the podcast studio?
My only one on a technical level is don't move your mic away, because they're quite sensitive mics, and they get rid of a lot of background noise. But if you are the background noise, you won't be heard. So as long as you have it close to you, talking with your hands is fine. Like if you're hitting the mic all the time, then probably not good. I see podcasts where people are doing this all the time, and it's fine. With these ones, it's actually quite good. Right. I think we'll test it afterwards to see if it works. But you can be playful with the mic. Get your personality across. Some people are quite rigid and they don't know what to say. A lot of people don't like to get involved in group conversations, but it can always be cut afterwards. If you're not happy with it, you can get rid of it afterwards. So they're not live.
No, that's true. I've had a podcast episode I was editing yesterday, and because it was done at a desk, there's a lot of nail tapping. Yep. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. People's watches on desks as well.
Yeah.
We don't have that problem here. We had a podcast where they brought their pets in, and Lee had his Pomeranian on, and they could hear the dog panting, and Lara, who was in here, was just like, we might need to swap the dog out for a less panty one.
Overtaking the whole audio.
But also they had a golden retriever rather, and the dog fell asleep during the middle of the podcast and you could hear snoring, but that won't pick up from the mics or it'll be very, very low. So certain things are allowed as long as they're not really close to the mic.
Yeah.
If you're with a podcast producers or you're in a studio and it's monitored, people will say, oh, you're too far from your mic. Say that again just because you bumped the mic when you were saying it, etc., etc.
And that's something that you'd be able to help from the sidelines.
Yeah, just because we edit them as well, we kind of know that won't work, especially with like call to actions and things like that. If people do talk with their hands and they say, okay, welcome to the thingy podcast, and so not the podcast, sorry, welcome to something podcast, and they're hitting the mic, you know, right, we need that clean because that's like a main bit. But if everyone's talking or they're laughing in thing, it doesn't matter if the mic's peak and stuff like that. We can sort all that out. So mainly forgiving, but there's a few cardinal, not sins, but rules that we try to guide people through.
Perfect. Amazing. That's all my questions.
Oh, good. Right. Pressure off. Okay, then one more question. How would you end a podcast?
So I would always say it depends what you want them to do. What is the most important thing that you want them to do?
Okay.
So whether it was hit subscribe, comment down below what you want to see next time. For some people, they are driving a group program. So it'd be to get the link from the show notes and come and join the group program. Okay, then. So we don't have a newsletter. I do.
Sign up to Kellie's newsletter. And you can follow on the Camera Shy thing, but we might call it Camera Shy Podcast. Don't forget to follow, subscribe and like on all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.